Hello, my name is Tristan Reynolds from the University of Melbourne, and today I will be taking you through a short introduction to Galaxy, one of the tutorials available on the Galaxy Training Network. In this tutorial, we will cover a number of topics, including how to upload a file, how to use a tool, how to view the results from running a tool, how to view your histories, how to extract and run a workflow, and how to share histories. Now, the first thing you will need to do is either log in or register for an account on Galaxy. Today, I will be using the Galaxy Australia server on which I already have an account. So just to show you how to register for an account, we'll go over to the Galaxy Europe. In the top right corner, there's login or register. Click on that. Down below the login panel is a button to register for an account. Register here. Then you just need to complete the registration form and you'll be able to create your account. Going back over to Galaxy Australia, click on login and register, and I will log in. Now, this is the panel page you will see when you first log into Galaxy. And just to give you a tour of the main parts of the Galaxy platform. On the left, we have the activity bar. This is where you'll find the resources within Galaxy, such as tools, workflows, and histories. Next, we have the activity panel on the left, which by default is open to display the tools installed within Galaxy from which you can select. Uh, then in the middle, we have the viewing panel, and this is the main area for the content for when you're running your analysis. On the left, we have the history panel, and this shows your current history, and that's where all files will be stored that you either upload or anytime you run a tool, the outputs will be stored in your history. And when you first log into Galaxy for the first time, you will have an unnamed history by default appearing there. Now, need to go and update this history because unnamed history isn't a very useful history name. So click on the pencil icon, and then we can rename the history from unnamed history. And you want to give your history a meaningful name so that you can, in the future, identify what you were doing in each of your given histories. In this case, we will give it a simple name, just my analysis. Then make sure after you rename your history, you click Save. As you can now see, your history's name has been updated from unnamed history to my analysis. Now we want to upload a file that we will then use Galaxy to analyze. So on the left in the activity bar, at the top, we have the upload icon. So we'll select that. And today we will be uploading a file from the GTN tutorial via a URL. So in the tutorial, we have the URL, which is going to pull the data from Zenodo, which is where the data is located. So just copy that, go back into Galaxy, and we select the paste and fetch data option. We're now in the white text box here. We just copy and paste our URL. You can upload more than one URL at a time. Just provide one URL per line, and each associated file will be uploaded into Galaxy directly. You can, using the choose local file option, upload a file directly from your machine if you're analyzing data in the future that is stored locally. We click Start. That begins data upload. Once that reaches 100%, we can close the upload window, and we can now see in our history that our data set that we are uploading is in the process of being imported into Galaxy. This is our mutant R1 FastQ file. When the file it turns green, as it has now, it means the file is uploaded into Galaxy and is now able to be used. So if we take a look at our uploaded data sets, we use this eye icon next to the uploaded data set. This will now display in that central panel the first megabytes of the file because it's a large file. If it was a small file, it might be able to show the entire data set. The file we have uploaded is a FASTQ file that contains DNA sequencing from a bacteria. And FASTQ files contain sets of 4 lines, which include the DNA sequence for a given read, and the associated quality score for that read. Now we're going to select our first tool to start analyzing this data set. So over in the to the left side in the tool panel, we can search for FastQC, which is a tool for inspecting the quality of our data sets. So FastQC, and the tool panel will go and filter down based on the search that you run. So we select FastQC, and this now provides the tool input panel in our central viewing panel. Now we go and select the raw reads data from your current history. Now Galaxy is able to select a data set from your history by default if it has an acceptable input format, which the FASTQ file is. Then we don't need to set any other parameters, so we just use the Run Tool button at the top right of the tool input panel. This will run FastQC on our input FastQ dataset, and we can see in our history that the output dataset's being produced, which includes a web page, so a visual format of our results, and the raw data that is being produced by FastQC will appear. When the datasets are orange, it means that the tool is running on Galaxy, and once they turn green, the tool has completed successfully. And as you can see, datasets are named based on the tool that you ran and then on what dataset, where data 1 refers to the first dataset in our history. So each dataset in our history, as you can see, has a number associated with it. So running FastQC on data 1 is running FastQC on the first dataset in our history, which is the mutant R1 FastQ. We can now look at the web page, so the visual view of our results. And this will now go and display that web page, that HTML FastQC report that is produced as an output. Now we can collapse the tool panel by clicking on Tools in the left activity bar, and that will allow us to see the FastQC report a bit easier. Now, looking at our FastQC report, we can go and see initially some basic statistics, such as the total number of sequences, so the total number of sets of 4 lines in the FastQ file as 12,480. We can see the total number of bases. We can also see the length of the sequence of each of the sequences, so each of our reads in the file, which is 150. We can then look at the per base quality. So this is the average quality at each base in our read. So if we look at the entire length, we can see that it goes up to 150, so the total number of bases. And we can see that the quality is the highest near the center of our read. So that's where the average quality score, so the line going through here is the highest, kind of roughly between 30 and 100 basis pairs. Now we're going to run another tool. So we open the tool panel back up again, and now we're going to filter our data set. So we can see, based on looking at the quality, how the quality varies. And we can now filter the data by searching for filter by quality. So this will be the next tool we run. So select filter by quality. The input FASTQ file is our uploaded data set. And now we're going to specify the quality cutoff value that we want to use. In this case, for this tutorial, we're setting a cutoff value of 35. And we're going to select a percentage of bases in the sequence that must have a quality equal or higher to this value. So will go and remove any reads which have less than this percentage of bases with a quality below our cutoff value. So we want at least 80% of our basis reads to have a quality of 35 or higher. And we will now select Run Tool again in the top right. And our job is now being submitted to Galaxy. So gray means it's in the queue. Orange, it's currently running. Once our filtering tool has completed running, it will turn green. And if we want to view metadata about our dataset, if we click around the file name, the dataset name, that will expand to show us some metadata about our dataset. This includes information such as our quality cutoff of 35 and our minimum percentage of 80. That was our filter settings that we applied. And within this light gray box you can see here, if we scroll in there, we can also see the input reads. So that's the initial reads in our input data sets, the number of output reads, and also the number of reads that have been discarded. So the difference between input and output. So this indicates the number of reads. So 14% of our reads were low quality. So they did not satisfy our filtering threshold of a quality cutoff of 35 across 80% of the each read. Now we can also rerun a tool. So say we want to go and try a different filtering threshold just to go and see whether or not we're being strict enough or if we can improve our filtering quality. We can use the rerun icon, so the circular arrow, so the fourth icon along. That will bring up our filter by color. That will bring up the input panel for that tool, and it will already be pre-filled out with our input settings from the previous time that we ran this tool. So this time we want to change our quality cutoff value from 35, and instead we're going to use a value of 36 just to see if we can improve our filtering. We will now run the tool again and wait for the tool to complete. This can take a little bit of time depending on what other jobs are currently running on the Galaxy server that you are using. Once it completes, we can expand to look at the metadata, and we can scroll down again, and we can see now with a cutoff, with a quality cutoff of 36, we've now discarded 92% of our reads as being low quality. So we've discarded 11,517 reads. This indicates that we're now being too strict on our thresholding, and we should stay with a cutoff of 35 rather than using a cutoff of 36. Now, let's imagine you have had a problem with your analysis and you would like to ask for some help. The easiest way to ask for help is to share your history. Now we're going to try and create a link for your history so that you can share it. In this case, with yourself, but in future with whoever you are asking for assistance. Now, to access the history sharing menu via the history options dropdown, so up at the top of the history panel, we have options for creating a new history, switching between histories, both which we will go through later, and the history option, so the three horizontal lines. Within that, we have the options to share or publish a history. So we'll select that. Now, first thing you'll need to do is make the history accessible. So change the switch. So make history is now accessible. Then you can choose to make the history publicly available in published histories. And each of these settings, you can turn them on and off. So they're just switches. Then you can share the URL to your history. So you copy that and share that with anyone. You can also share with a specific user. So if you type in a specific user's email address who has access to the same Galaxy server, then they will be able to access the history. And then you could also need to be able to find histories that have been shared with you. So for that, we go over to the histories in the activity bar, show all histories, and then so this will show all the histories that you have in your in Galaxy, and then the second option up top is shared with me. So this will show all histories that have been shared with you. And when you share a history, this is where they will appear for anyone who um, you have shared your history with. Now, once you've run your analysis within your history, you can extract a workflow from your history, and this will save all the steps that you ran and any parameters that you set for each individual tool from that piece of analysis. Extract a workflow from your history. We go back to the history options in the top right of the history panel and go down to the extract workflow option. This will go and extract each of the tools that you ran, what the inputs were, any parameters that you were set, and what outputs were produced. So first thing we want to do is rename our workflow, again, giving it a meaningful name, same as you need to give your history a name. For this tutorial, we will name it QC and filtering, as these are the steps that we are running within this workflow. And then we're also going to rename the input data set. So right now it's named based on the actual data set that we used. And we're going to rename that to fast Q reads. So as to be more generalized for any input fast Q reads file that we choose to analyze with this workflow. Now, we can also choose which tools that we ran we want to actually include in the workflow, because sometimes we don't want to include every single time we ran a tool, such as in this case, we ran the filtering by quality twice, but in the second time that we ran it with a quality cutoff of 36, it discarded too many of our reads. So we don't actually want to include that second time we ran the filtering. So we unselect the checkbox within for including that tool in the workflow. So we're not going to include the second time we ran filter by quality in our workflow. We now click on Create Workflow below the workflow name, and this will create our workflow. And now has the options to, you can now edit or run the workflow. And your workflow, all workflows that you have will appear if you select the workflows option from the activity bar. And we can now see the workflow we've just created, QC and filtering appears there. Now, before we actually go and run that, we're going to create a new history and we will use our new history in which to run our workflow. So to create a new history, we will use the plus icon at the top of the history panel, which has now created a new unnamed history. And in this case, we're going to rename this history to our next analysis. And again, make sure that you save to update the name of our history. Now that you have at least two histories, we can go and view those histories. We have a couple of options to view multiple histories at once. We can quickly switch between histories using the switch to history icon, so the two opposite pointing arrows. This will uh, create a pop-up which shows all the histories that you have in Galaxy. In my case, I have quite a few. You may only have a small number or potentially only the two histories. From here, you can quickly go and navigate between your histories. So just in this case, we want to go back to My Analysis. We can select that, and we are now back in our My Analysis history in the history panel. But for now, we'll go back to our next analysis, so our new empty history. Now, you also have the option in using the history options, so the three lines panel, to show your history side by side. So if we want to, this will allow us to see multiple histories and all of the files within those datasets within those histories next to each other. We can use the select option in the top right to select which histories we want to pin to the history multi-view. That way you can limit it to only show the histories that you're currently interested in rather than needing to look through all of your histories that you have, which if you have more than two or three, it can become a bit unmanageable to try and track them all at the same time. So we're going to select next analysis. So that's our current empty history and my analysis. So that was the history we were just using. Select change selected at the lower right of this pop-up screen. And now we can just see our my analysis, which contains our 5 data sets and our new empty next analysis. Now, what we want to do is use that same data set we just used previously in my analysis. We want to copy that into our new empty history. So you can just drag and drop data sets between your histories, and that will copy it into the new history. So we just click, oops, sorry about that, uh, and select our data set we want to copy. So in this case, the mutant R1 FastQ, and drag and drop it into our empty next analysis history. And we see from the pop-up info, dataset copied to history, and the dataset is now available in next analysis, and we can also see it has appeared in the history panel. And we can go back to the home view of Galaxy by just clicking on the Galaxy icon. That takes us back home, and we're now back to the home page. We can also reopen up the tools, and we now have our history on the left, next analysis with our mutant R1 FastQ file. Now, rather than running each of those tools we ran previously individually, we're going to run the workflow, which will run the FastQC and the filtering tools for us. So in the activity bar, we select the third option, which is workflows. And we're now going to run our QC and filtering workflow that we just created previously. So we use the arrow icon, the play icon, run workflow for our QC and filtering workflow. This brings up the input parameters for our workflow. It's automatically selected our FastQ file as our input reads, FastQ reads file. And you can also, if you expand to the full workflow, you can see each of the tools that this workflow runs. And in the case of tools that have input parameters that we set and are saved, that you can choose to update them if you need to. So in this case, for our filter by quality, it has saved the quality cutoff value of 35 and the percentage of bases as 80. We don't want to update those values this time, so we can just leave them as they are. We can now, in the top right, select Run Workflow. This will now submit all the jobs needed for this workflow to Galaxy. So this is for us now submitting the job to run FastQC and the job to run Filter by Quality. And Galaxy now has a nice display, visual display of every step in the workflow that you can go and use to track the workflow's progress. And as you can see, tools will run as Galaxy is able to, as far once it has the required inputs, and it doesn't go and require tools to run in the same order that necessarily that you would and ran things manually. So in this case, the filter by quality has run before the fast QC step because the filtering does not rely on fast QC. And there we go. It's completed. We can just, to verify that we're getting the same results as expected, we can, in the case of the fast Q output, we can view that output and it looks the same as our previous run. And similarly, if we look at the filtering, you can go and see that, again, 14% of the low quality reads were discarded by our filtering step. And this concludes the tutorial, a short introduction to Galaxy. I hope you found this useful and good luck with all your analysis on Galaxy in the future. Thank you. Bye.